Hey everyone, welcome to Friday Night Live with your host Ben. In an unprecedented congressional hearing about UFOs, whistleblower David Grusch not only exposed that the US government has downed alien craft, but that they also have recovered bodies of non-human origin. So both the mainstream media and the alternative media are in a frenzy talking about it. But the big question is, why now? What is David Grusch not saying or not allowed to say? Who has been attending these hearings and why? What else is going on in the world at the very same time that's being ignored by the media in favor of this story? For one, there's the strange behavior of world leaders. So join me on this Friday Night Live with my special guest, Simon Esler, as we discuss all of this, plus bring you the top 10 weirder news of the week and a live Q&A only on rise.tv. Simon, how are you doing?
I'm very well.
Rob's not able to be here today. I think he's traveling out of town. So Simon is with me. And by the way, if you're listening to our podcast, please give us a 5-star rating and review so we can keep making these awesome content for you guys.
Do it. Do it right now.
Welcome back to the show, Simon. How are you doing?
I'm great. I just spent the day on the beach. It was lovely. Very, very relaxing. Saw a snake. A snake snuck into this guy's backpack.
In his backpack?
It snuck into this guy's backpack. And then the guy, it was actually, he responded to it in probably the kindest way he could. He ran over to my kids and said, "Hey, do you boys want to see a snake?" And brought them over to see the snake that was trapped in his backpack. And then we all helped hustle it back to the bush.
So wait, he didn't have it in his backpack on purpose. It just...
No.
It crawled in. Yeah, that's kind of in Canada. This happened.
Yes. Oh, yes. On the beach. It's we were at Cherry Beach here in Toronto, and that snake. I don't know how the snake got into his backpack. I mean, there are snakes around that area, but the fact that it got into his bag was a bit weird.
That is weird. Yeah. I mean, here in Florida, we have these black snakes that are kind of everywhere. I didn't really know much about them, but
this was a gardener snake.
Yeah, a gardener snake. It makes it's. I guess these black snakes are kind of similar. They don't really.
Yeah,
they're not really that dangerous or anything. Like gardener snakes won't bite you or anything.
No, it was terrified of us. It was just
that's
hiding under stuff. So we got it back to its little bush, and it was all cozy and snuggled up in there. It was good.
Nice. And before we started the show, you were saying you were going to go to New Jersey?
Yes, I am headed to Bridgewater, New Jersey for a screening of my film Cut on August 5th. So next week. So if you are in that area or you know people in that area, send them to come see this film. And I'm going to do a Q&A after, a little presentation. We're going to talk about, ways to create local action, ways to get informed, and to protect kids from all of this. Mm-hmm. It should be a really great experience. So yeah, flying out next Friday, and the screening is on Saturday. So please come join if you're in the area.
That's awesome. So
yeah, and you can go to daughtersofthewestfilm.com, as you can see right here. If you can't make it and you just want to watch the film cozy in your home, you can get it video on demand right there.
Yeah, you did such an amazing job on that documentary. I was really blown away by how good it was. So
thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
hopefully we can continue to make a positive impact. I'm really glad to connect that the in-person connections are the best, because that's where
they are. Yes,
it's so meaningful when you really get connected with people in person and you talk about the issues in person. You don't have the internet between you manipulating every aspect of your interactions.
See, that doesn't even look like you anymore.
I've changed. I know I've changed. I don't. Zoom right in there again.
It's I used to have big earrings too back in the day.
Oh yeah, the big black earrings. It's been a while. I could bring them back. I got some pretty harsh feedback about the earrings, though. I gotta say.
No. Actually, I had the horseshoe, the giant horseshoe ones. I had I had a bunch of those in my ears. So it's funny.
I should do some new headshots, I guess.
All right. Well, before we get started, we have the Mandela effects. So
yeah,
we'll start with this one. So I just learned this yesterday. Now this could just be something that everyone just kind of forgets. I mean, because there
Always
are
possible.
some of these cases where it sometimes it's like maybe we're forgetting things, like the Shaggy without the Adam's apple, like hands down that's just weird. But Grenadine, what is it? What flavor is it?
Like some kind of cherry situation.
So like this is the stuff that it's like growing up as kids, you'd get a Coke and then it's like, oh, I want a cherry Coke, and they always put Grenadine in it, and then like
Yeah,
those, what are those candy
the
cherries?
maraschino
Yeah,
cherries.
maraschino. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and so the other day, someone was talking. I overheard people talking about this, and then um someone was like, no, Grenadine is pomegranate. And
What?
I was like, what? Did it change? And they're like, no, it's always been pomegranate. And like Grenadine gets its word from granite, from like pomegranate. So it does make sense. But then I was asking everybody, what is Grenadine? Every
What?
single person said it was cherry. And then because I was at this cafe working, and then I wish I would have gotten a video of this. And then on the screen, they just had trivia questions just flashing, and one of them was literally, "What fruit is Grenadine made out of?" And all of us were freaking out about it, and it was pomegranate. And for the
Wow.
life of me, it just blows my mind. I was like, is this just one of those things where you just order a cherry Coke and it just has Grenadine and it's like this cherry flavor, but then it's like, well, then it's not cherry flavor, so then it's not a cherry Coke.
I gotta say that like one of my favorite drinks is like a Dirty Shirley uses grenadine, but they push it as like a cherry soda style drink. They say
Yeah,
there's grenadine. It's all about the cherries, so that's how it's marketed.
yeah. No, some people in the chat are definitely saying pomegranate. It's like, no, they
Okay.
remember pomegranate, but I don't know. I like I said, maybe it's just one of those things where
Could
you
be.
just associate it with cherry,
But
but
we have to examine every possibility, people.
yeah, we do.
We must. Thus is the nature of the Mandela effect.
That is true. That is true. I found that was like, there's another one that I got, but I'll save it for next week. So it's pretty interesting. So we'll figure that one out. All right. Why don't we kind of get into more of this UFO stuff and the hearing and everything that is coming out?
Ugh, this very very controlled disclosure scenario.
Yeah. Yeah.
It is
Um,
tightly controlled. My
very
goodness.
much controlled. So, in fact, watch this. Check out this video. Someone filmed this at a gym that they were at, and this is the mainstream media talking about it.
This really tells you a lot, I think, actually,
Yeah.
because you think about like again controlled. If we're going to talk about controlled and how controlled the mainstream media is, when they all in their freaky little network all cover the same thing at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
When has that been a sign of anything honest going on?
Well, that's what made me think about a lot of things.
Okay, let's see.
You can't really tell from this, but all of this is about the every single media here is all talking about the UFO hearing.
Yeah, we're looking at wall-to-wall coverage.
Yeah, yeah.
No.
And this is all that's pretty much been on every mainstream platform, whether it's the right, the left, alternative media, or just straight up like CNN. And it's something that's, when New York Times broke that the Tic Tac UFO, everyone started covering it, and New York Times, I think, thought that the story was going to get massive. And instead, it was just kind of one of those things where majority of the people out there were just kind of like, well, yeah, we already know there's something in our skies. That's not the question. The question is, what is this? And does the U.S. government have knowledge of this? Or like alien craft or alien beings or whatever, And so, this is why it's just so strange that it's like, why is this happening right now?
Right now, exactly, because this is well timed, it's well coordinated, it's about saturating the public in one particular narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's the Tic Tac. Yeah, and it's like,
which isn't much at all.
The Tic Tac was nothing.
Yeah.
If you've studied ufology, the Tic Tac was a bit of a silly joke. It's kind of insulting, really.
Yeah, you're kind of right. It really is. And that was it. It was like, okay, if you're really going to reveal something, just show, obviously, let alone like having, I'm sure, somewhere the military industrial complex, whatever, has all these massive in-depth photos and video of real UFOs. Yet they also just have them in the hangars. They could just go over there and just, fly their own craft and then just take photos of that and release that if they really wanted to. So.
Yes, we could have 4K footage of working craft. 100%. The idea that it all has to be like grainy, sketchy, there's like this constant struggle, like, oh, I don't know, we'll try to get something, but we can't. It's such nonsense. Such nonsense.
Yeah, it really is. Lindsay, can you show this map? So this is something interesting that I found. Mm-hmm. So this is a map of sightings all around the world, people that have collected this information. And the thing is that, okay, it's clearly there's a lot more sightings in the US than anywhere else. So
why?
Yeah.
Yeah, look at that. That is bonkers.
Now, granted, some of these in the other countries, they may not report them. They may not have a system to report them, so I don't really know where they're exactly pulling this information from.
But I think that you do have a unique circumstance in the US that lends itself to this, right? So first of all, you have a military industrial complex like no other that is funded to the tune of trillions. You also have, a series of corporate contractors that work with the military industrial complex. These contractors are, potentially developing their own, let's say, reverse engineered craft. So you have the compartmentalized programs in the military. Then you have the defense contractors with their own compartmentalized programs outside of the military. And I would say that just on sheer scale, the United States has these things more than any other country, I think.
Yeah. And also, to be fair, okay, so I was looking more into where the statistics from that were coming from. And it was like an American organization that was collecting things, So it's like, okay, well, that does kind of make a little bit more sense since it's based out of the US. We're obviously going to see those, so, and in some of these other locations, especially like South America, depending on where they are, I mean, they may not have like I said, they may not even have a system to report this. Some people may be even afraid to report it,
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of different scenarios out there.
But I think the point is that there's probably just more man-made crafts in America. I think that's probably what you're seeing there, right?
That's 100%. I completely agree with you, especially with the, like you said, the military industrial complex, and looking at it from that perspective.
Underline the word industrial, right? Because if it's industrial, it means they're like pumping out UFOs on like a factory level, like,
Exactly. So I that's why it makes me wonder, really, what's going on with, like what we're seeing, like this Tic Tac UFO actually most likely is a government associated, craft that was reverse engineered. But okay, Lindsay, show this. This is also on Twitter. I don't know if I'm going to be able to call Twitter X. This is just so strange.
Yeah,
this is on X. It's like, I mean,
and now it's not a tweet. So if it's not a tweet, what is it now?
Yeah, an Xter. and X-teen.
I don't know. I don't know what to do with it.
I don't.
I
Yeah,
don't
what do
think
you
they
call
thought
it?
that through. What is
All
it?
right. Anyway, this is one of the more bombshell videos, I guess you could say, or parts throughout this hearing. This is one of the more bombshell parts of it, I guess I'm trying to say.
Intelligent extraterrestrials.
Something I can't discuss in public setting.
Okay, I can't ask when you think this occurred. If you believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, biologics came with some of these recoveries. Yeah.
Were they, I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
And was this documentary evidence, this video, photos, eyewitness? Like, how would that be determined?
The specific documentation I would have to talk to you in a skiff about.
Gotcha. Okay, so, and you may or may not be able to answer my last question, and maybe we get into a skiff at the next hearing that we have, but who in the government, either what agency, sub-agency, what contractors, who should be called into the next hearing about UAPs, either in a public setting or even in a private setting? And you probably can't name names, but what agencies or organizations, contractors, et cetera, do we need to call in to get these questions answered, whether it's about funding, what programs are happening, and what's out there?
I can give you a specific cooperative and hostile witness list of specific individuals that were in those.
And how soon can we get that list?
I'm happy to provide that to you after the hearing.
Super, thank you, and I yield back.
Okay.
What's your
Very
thoughts?
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a lot of layers to this. So you have him admitting to the existence of these entities, these biological entities. So he's saying that there are ETs recovered. Now I know that the Pentagon has responded to this, saying this isn't true. Okay, so we have they've created the narrative that says it, and then they have the counter narrative that creates the reasonable doubt for all the hardcore skeptics.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I always notice with this, and this to me is like a really big deal, they never get into the free energy aspect of it, the technology of it, that the extent to which the technology could completely undermine our whole economy, the fossil fuel-based economy, the whole like push to go to electric that's going on. Like Toronto is covered in electric battery propaganda right now from the government of Ontario. So to me, that piece they're carefully leaving out of all of this, the technology that would drastically revolutionize our whole society and our whole economy, everything.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what I feel like too. And in fact, the way he words this is it's crafted so carefully because, they stay away from the word aliens. They even stay away from extraterrestrials. He just says biological. What he doesn't even say beings. He just says
it was weird. What was it? Biologics.
But
is that what he said? He just said biologics, I think.
Non-human biologics. That might be it. So
yeah.
In reality, he could literally be talking about microbes that they found in these crafts. That it's like, let's just say they find a craft. Oh, there's no aliens in it, but we found these like evidence of microbes or something like that, and that's why this is very convoluted and not kind of ambiguous because
it's part of the control of what. So when they control the language, this tightly, they're trying to control thinking around the issue. So similar to them switching the language from UFO to UAP, that's all about control. It's all about controlling the parameters of thought surrounding this issue. So when they start to say, these are the terms that we have to use to discuss this, to me, that's an exercise of control, of thought control, and it ensures that things stay within a particular narrative. And you're right. It gives them this sort of plausible deniability down the line.
Yes.
If they decide they want to do something with this narrative, they absolutely could say, no, we didn't say there were pilots. Actually, it's true. We just found some bacteria and the ship was empty. Oh,
so
gotcha.
like we found evidence of alien bacteria. Yes, and that's it. So
Yeah.
that's why, she asks directly, was alien bodies recovered in this? And so, Lindsay, can you play that again? I want to like hear his exact response of
His language,
how he said that again. Yeah,
it's rehearsed.
Yeah, it totally is. And
Yeah.
he's like, if you watch my interview on
News Nation.
News Nation, I never really heard too much about News Nation until he came out. And I started doing a little bit of research. They're actually owned by Nexstar Media Group. Nexstar Media Group was created by somebody named John Muse. There's not like a whole lot of information about this, but yeah, just play a little bit. I want to hear this one more time.
Intelligent extraterrestrials.
Something I can't discuss in public setting.
Okay, I can't ask when you think this occurred. If you believe we have crashed craft, stated earlier, do we have the bodies of the pilots who piloted this craft?
As I've stated publicly already in my News Nation interview, biologics came with some of these recoveries. Yeah.
Biologics.
Biologics, yep.
Were
Yeah.
they,
Keep playing.
I guess, human or non-human biologics?
Non-human, and that was the assessment of people with direct knowledge on the program I talked to that are currently still on the program.
And was this
Oh,
documentary
okay.
evidence, this video, photos, eyewitness? Like, how would that be determined?
The specific documentation I would have to talk to you in a skiff about.
Gotcha.
Okay. So
Okay.
you can stop it.
All right. So non-human biologics, it leaves the door
wide
wide open.
Yeah.
What it's like,
What the hell does that even mean,
it was
really?
a drone, and we found some cats in it. That's it. It was just a drone with some cats. Non-human biologics. That's it. Like, they just so carefully craft this. And okay, so we were saying earlier before the show that this is a limited hangout. So for people that don't know, that's a particular tactic that is used for classified operations when they create a narrative that is crafted with some psychological constructs in mind to make sure that you only get a little bit of the truth, just enough that it appeases people and makes them feel like they're getting a disclosure moment, when in fact what they have withheld is paramount to what's really going on. And so they hang that limited hangout, they just dip that little bit out there. Biologics, non-human biologics, cats in a drone, as if you will.
Cats in it. I mean, that you're absolutely right. And then they can also come back and say something to the extent, oh, well, actually our military does have this kind of technology, crafts, and yeah, it was just non-human bio. You're right. Oh, someone had a pet.
It's like that snake that got into that guy's backpack. It's just a snake just got into our drone.
Oh man. Okay, we gotta play a trailer. When we get back, we'll continue this conversation, you guys. And speaking, welcome to Edge of Wonder, where the weird gets even weirder. Out of all the craziest theories out there, none is more fascinating than the idea that giant reptilian beings, serpent people, Dracos, lizard people, or more formally, reptoids, could really exist.
Yeah, this is one creature that a lot of us have a hard time grasping. Are there really shape-shifting lizard beings controlling things behind the scenes? Or even controlling people?
Well, if you said yes to that question, then congratulations. According to an article from The Wire, you're one of the 12 million people who believe reptilians are not only real, but are even controlling politics. And if you believe that, then you're branded a paranoid, raging conspiracy theorist / lunatic who is dangerous to society.
Well, Ben, that is what the media would call you if they were secretly being controlled by reptilian aliens, right? Of course, this poll was taken back in 2013, and a lot's changed in 10 years.
Yeah, that 12 million people might have even doubled now. But whether or not you believe in the most extreme theories, the concept of strange reptoid beings ever existing is still a fascinating topic to dig into.
So is this all a giant hoax, or is there actually something to this reptilian agenda?
Man, I've been watching Secret Invasion, and it's really all about that.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah.
It's just like actual shape-shifting reptilians waging a war on humans. Like they're just going for it.
There's actually I've been watching a little bit of that too. And it's crazy how many things in movies and TV shows, like what was that show V? It was essentially the same thing.
Yes.
I'm off top of my head. I'm trying to think, but I've been kind of shocked to find out how many TV shows are talking about this. And there's also a couple cartoon or like adult cartoon shows. One is
that conspiracy one, right?
Yeah, I always forget the name of it, man.
Yeah, it's on Netflix.
Time. It's on Netflix. I always forget the name of it. Anyway, that one that's on Netflix, and there was another one. Resident Alien. It goes into that as well. It actually talks about specifically reptilians and everything else. And this, it's just really weird that there's all of these shows. And of course, you got The Simpsons. When they were.
Oh yeah, the Inside Job. There it is.
That's Inside Job. Yeah. That's hilarious.
Yeah, Inside Job, and then yes, like Secret Invasion is a pretty big deal, like because that's a big budget show. They're going all out with that.
Yeah, Marvel and everything. So
yeah.
So you guys, that trailer is now out on rise.tv. You can find the show for the trailer, the trailer you just saw for the full episode on rise.tv, along with all of our other episodes that we have done last 4 years, Rob and I. So you can find everything on there. And we have a bunch of other things. We have Simon on there doing he has his own show, along with your comedy special that you did that was amazing.
Yes.
So
yeah, it's good library stuff. Actually, really right now, so with so many people moving to homeschooling, people need to check out season 3 of Worlds Within, because it's all about the history of education and the metaphysics and the philosophy of homeschooling and unschooling. It's become even more relevant than when I made it. I was ahead of the curve back then.
Really. Mm-hmm. It really is.
Okay, so now we're Joe Rogan. I haven't
Dude, I
haven't seen this.
Oh, yeah, sorry. So Lindsay's showing your
Oh, yes. Yes, my dystopian imaginarium.
Great title.
It will blow your mind.
Yeah, it's great. It really is. So that's our rise.tv platform. If you haven't checked it out, come over and check it out, you guys, and support what we do so we can keep making this awesome content and keep bringing you the truth that a lot of censors have been.
And you know what? Actually, if you guys go to simonesler.com, I have links to some of the, there are some previews to some of those educational episodes on my YouTube channel. So if you go to simonesler.com, you actually get previews to some of those episodes. You can check them out and see what it's all about.
So Lindsay, let's show this, Joe. So this is super interesting. Everything Joe Rogan is on the exact same wavelength we are. And it's kind of refreshing to hear him talk about it from this angle, because my understanding, and in fact, Rob and I were kind of talking about this a little bit before the hearing, is that if they're declassifying, like, for example, CNN was talking about how the military may have anti-gravity craft. So if they're talking about this, and the same thing happened, when they and it's so interesting because Rob and I were talking about this exact scenario when the stealth bomber came out. It was mind blowing, but it's like, if they're declassifying the stealth bomber back in the 80s, or it was like the 70s or 80s even, clearly they have technology that far exceeds what the stealth bomber is today. So
absolutely,
the question is, what do they have now? If they're starting to talk about anti-gravity craft, then what the heck technology do they have? What are they really using?
Like the idea that it's still jet powered at all, you know, that we're basically using giant matchsticks.
It's
to zip
100-year-old
around.
technology.
It's so silly. It's so silly. With $1 trillion budgets, we just stuck with the old matchstick inside a metal tube. That's it? No.
Yeah,
It goes against common sense entirely.
it really does. So, okay, Lindsay, why don't you show this for a little bit? So, sorry. To give some backstory, he's interviewing Mark and shoot, what's his name? Anderson scene or something.
Mark Andreessen.
Yeah, okay. So he is the guy that literally created I think it's the JPEG.
Oh, okay.
So this dude has a long history in the tech world. He really is like a pioneer of a lot of the things that we use for computers today. So this dude is not like a small guy, and he's very active on Twitter, and he's been like kind of responding to a lot of things. Like him and Elon kind of been responding to each other over the last like couple years about different things too. So okay, why don't we play this?
The thing about this News Nation. The thing about this News Nation is they're spending an inordinate amount of time on UFOs, an inordinate amount of time on this David Grusch case, and I'm increasingly more suspicious. I'm increasingly more skeptical. Like the more I see, the more people confirming it, the more I'm like, something's not right. And then to see that this channel is the one that's covering it the most, I'm like, this seems like something's off.
Senator Rubio, who's on the Senate Intelligence Committee and has all the clearances, gave an interview the other day where he went into quite a bit of detail. And
yeah, I saw it.
At least heavily hinting that there's.
He's heavily hinting that he talked to someone.
Yeah,
that says that there's something.
That there are real. Well, he's sort of hinting that there are real whistleblowers with real knowledge.
I want to talk to the guy that sees the ship. That's it. No one else.
Yes.
All this, I talked to a guy who says that they have these things.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah.
I want to see the fucking ship.
Yeah.
And until then, I just feel like I'm being hosed.
Yeah.
It just seems too laid out on a platter.
Yeah. So of course, one of the theories is it's an astroturf story. Like, is that an astroturf story? Is that a manufacturer's story that's being used to distract from?
Would it be to distract from, or would it be to cover up some sort of a secret program, some military drone program or something of the like?
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's been rumors for a long time that the original UFOs, right, where basically it was a disinformation program covering up for the skunk works, the development of like stealth fighters and bombers and all these programs in the 50s and 60s. But
interesting.
I don't know if that's ever been proven.
Well, I'm sure probably some experimental craft were mistaken for UFOs.
Yeah. For sure. See a stealth fighter for the first time.
I saw one for the first time.
It's pretty crazy.
I saw one that right around September 11. We were filming Fear Factor in California, and I was out near Edwards Air Force Base, and I got to see one fly overhead. It's magic.
They actually show it here.
Yep.
Like complete Star Wars. Like as it's flying. Like this is crazy.
Yep.
And if you didn't know that was a thing, 100% you would think that's from another world.
Yep. Exactly.
And I can imagine that was developed what year? How long ago? How many decades ago?
40 or 50 years ago.
Yeah. Like, look at that thing.
Yeah.
If you'd be like, they're coming. Oh my God, they're coming. But if you can imagine that was 40 or 50 years ago, 40 or 50 years of advancement, like who knows what they're doing now?
Yep, exactly.
And if I was going to cover it up, I would just start talking about aliens. You know, it's the best way to do it. Don't you think?
It's a crowd pleaser.
Do you have an opinion on that? Or is this something that you find ridiculous until there's like real data?
All right. Yeah, you can stop it from here.
Okay.
I like.
Yeah. No, he's super on point because
he is.
The media has been so controlled and manipulated with absolutely everything up until now. Are we really supposed to believe that this is the one thing that's like slipping through? This is like slipping through the cracks? No. Doesn't make any sense. That's nonsense. You know, like, and it's true. News Nation, I've noticed this as well. They've been similar with the whole trans issue. So News Nation has been very big on interviewing detransitioners.
Really?
which I also was like, what is going on here? Because it's like, what's his name is one of the hosts, right? Who got booted from, God, what is his name? One of the hosts of News Nations.
I'm looking it up now.
You know what I mean?
I don't know
He got
too.
fired. He got fired from.
Como. Is it Como?
Yeah. Cuomo.
That's
He's one of the hosts on News Nation.
weird. Chris Como. So Chris
Yes.
Como is the brother of Andrew Cuomo, who was the former, is he still the governor of New York? I don't know. Gosh, he was governor during COVID, and that was a disaster and a half. But
So Cuomo getting a job on News Nation, and he's one of the people that is interviewing all these detransitioners. And so I'm like, what is with him? Like someone who I absolutely do not trust at all in any way. Why is he suddenly the source of all this oppositional content? If he's not controlled opposition, I can't imagine who is. I mean, it's absolutely...
yeah, I
obvious to
completely
me.
agree. And like Joe Rogan's interesting because he's doing it a very smart way where he's not really. He hasn't really fully taken sides, but if you watch him enough and listen to what he says outside of a show, actually, you can get a really good idea of where he is, especially because he's actually featured on the Ancient Apocalypse with Graham Hancock. At least in one episode, might be a little bit more than that. And they really riffed on the mainstream media a lot. And, so it's like, you can kind of, and like, there's people that I like indirectly know him and, or the other way around. Like I know that indirectly know him. I'm sorry. That's what I meant to say. And, they're all kind of saying the same thing. It's like, yeah, actually, he really knows what's going on. It's just that to reach more of a mainstream audience, he's trying to be a little bit more.
Yeah, he's being tactical.
He's being very tactical about what he's
Yeah,
doing.
I appreciate it actually because it widens his reach and he's
It
a
does.
powerful force. He's a very powerful force.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we have here this list of people.
Yes.
This is really informative. So the picture of these people that are all at the hearing right here. Okay. This is really interesting. Especially Jeremy Corbell. Okay. So Jeremy Corbell has been involved as a documentary filmmaker in the ufology space. Okay, so that guy on the far right there. Okay.
Yeah, the guy on the far, wearing like the green shirt there.
Yeah.
Military guy.
Yeah.
More
Yeah.
military
Very
than anyone else
obviously
there.
military looking dude. So obvious. He's supposedly this like breakthrough ufology filmmaker.
Yeah, he's the one that did the documentary with Bob Lazar.
That's right. He put up
Yeah.
the Bob Lazar documentary. He was working with the former singer of Blink-182.
Yeah, he was a little bit. Yeah.
Right? They crossed paths a little bit. Now, I know also that he was very outspoken against secret space program information. He openly attacked Jordan Sather on numerous occasions. He was so anti-Jordan Sather, which, I don't know, take it or leave it. But at the time, Jordan was very focused on exposing secret space programs.
Right, yeah.
And he worked very hard to attack Jordan's character. So I've watched this guy for a while, and he really is trying to keep people in one lane, in one narrative. He's very much about curating that. So I do think that picture says a lot.
Yeah, well, and the other guy too, James Clapper.
Mm-hmm.
He, out of everyone on there, you got George Knapp, who was like a famous reporter.
And he's tied up with the documentary that Corbell did.
Yes, he is
Lazar,
too.
right?
Yeah,
he was like the main reporter that was connected to Lazar, I believe.
Yes, he was actually. Yes, he was the one actually that brought out the documentary or brought out Bob Lazar's story. Yes, he had a tape. Bob Lazar, according to Bob Lazar himself, he said that he decided they're in the studio. They did the interview. He decided that he didn't want to show it anymore. And he said he wrestled George Knapp over the video And then George Knapp like threw the video to his producer and they put it in the thing and it showed on TV. So that's according to like Bob Lazar himself. I don't know if that's what happened or whatever, but that's according to Bob Lazar. Then you have James Clapper. James Clapper was the head of the national intelligence, director of national intelligence for during, I think, Bush Jr. and Obama's term. This dude, every time I see this photo, I'm sorry. He just, for some reason, some kind of alien thing comes into my mind. And maybe it's just like giant forehead, you know, it's the cone head shaped head or something. But this guy was the main person to be behind how Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation.
Aha, excellent point.
Yeah, he was the main one. He was the one.
He should get zero trust.
That's why as soon as I saw him on this panel or behind all the whole group of people there, I was like, whoa, that is like the biggest red flag out of all of these names right now. Now, Jeremy Corbell, I understand some of his points. His thing is like, he only wants to talk about it if he believes there's 100% solid proof. He's not going to talk about anything that somebody has that can't back up what they're saying. I get that, but he's very narrow-minded in that aspect because, I mean, you look at like Stephen Greer, the same time that David Grusch came out, the exact same week that he came out on, what was that? I don't want to say Newsmax, but what was it called again?
News Nation.
News Nation. The same week, Stephen Greer had the UFO hearing in Washington. And he had all his military people come in and talk about what they've seen. Most of them, or actually all of them, were firsthand accounts.
Yes.
Every single one of them.
Which goes back to what Rogan was saying. It's like, I don't want the guy who heard from the guy.
Right.
I want the actual witness.
Yes. And David Grusch is... He doesn't have any firsthand experience.
Yeah, he's once removed.
He's saying, I saw the documents. The documents were handed to me. He could have seen photos. He could have seen video. That is something he could have seen. But, you know, he's kind of representing a larger group of people that aren't coming forward. And my question is, why aren't they coming forward?
Exactly. And if you were working in one of these programs and you wanted to curate a narrative, if you wanted to create a limited hangout, what better way to do it than to hand a guy some documents and make that guy think this is true and then have that guy parade the narrative in the documents out to the public? That's the perfect way to really wage narrative warfare.
I 100% agree with that. And then also, even though, okay, this guy's swearing under oath what he has seen, but then they can always come back and say, oh, these photos were faked or the guy's story didn't check out, you know, and then he could just be like, well, I'm sorry, you know, these are the people that came to me with the information they have. So, so it's like, so it's like, well, I swore on my testimony, yes, this is the information that I was given. I'm sorry, it turned out it wasn't true or something like that, you know, and that's what always bothers me with this. And the stuff that's really coming out with the Stephen Greer more narrative aspect is insane. I mean, it's like using this technology for specifically for like human trafficking purposes. It's like we have anti-gravity craft now. We can actually go to these places and do whatever we want. No one's going to stop us. No one can even stop us. The Pentagon doesn't even know what's going on. You have all these like subcontractors, you know, these other companies that are out there. And he does mention that, you know, like Skunkworks and whatnot. So, not saying that Skunkworks, no, I mean, they're just building stuff, you know, so there's this whole, it's almost like a black market military operation going on.
Well, here's the question, right? Because if you think about it in terms of Skunkworks and these defense contractors, so they sign a deal with the government, okay? And they get in on the classified material. So their company gets access to the classified material. What is stopping that developer from them taking that and launching their own program outside of the US military.
Yeah.
Like, how would you stop them? How would you stop them from creating their own covert program that is not restricted by military oaths or any of the moral structures that are inherent in the military? You know?
Yeah.
So, because then it allows them to develop it outside of those constraints, which really I think is quite startling. And it goes back to what we were saying earlier about the US being sort of lit up like a Christmas tree in terms of UFO sightings. I think that's part of it, because these defense contractors were given access to covert programs with recovered craft, and then they went and squirreled that away and started doing their own stuff. And they were probably able to develop it faster, you know, without the military oaths and all the you know what I mean? Like, because then you know, they don't have to struggle with getting government funding and getting government approval and going into meetings in skiffs and, you know, getting the approval. They're just like, we have the money, we have the technology, let's go. You know?
Yeah. All right, we're gonna play. We have to play another trailer, and when we get back, we'll talk about what's been in the news this past week that's being ignored because everyone's so focused on this UFO thing. That's my first thought. It was like, okay, what else is going on in the news right now? You know, why now? And what happened the same day that the UFO hearing came out? That's the most important part. So we'll get into that when we come back.
Do you have deep questions that really need answers?
The brain is partially operating, not just in this world. There are things connected into other dimensions.
If quantum energy can affect by prayer, then haven't we scientifically proven prayer? Watch our Dig Deep Q&A segment this Friday Night Live and ask us your spiritual questions on rise.tv.
You've heard of the Mandela effect. But have you heard of the Mandela effect?
We were talking about Tank Man, the most famous photo of the 20th century. There's different variations of what actually happened.
I don't remember that happening either.
Don't miss Friday Night Live on rise.tv.
All right. That's us. That's the thing we're doing right now.
That is the thing we're doing right now. Yes, it is. All right.
In the news.
Yeah. So, okay. And I know that there's some things that I want to make sure that you, we get into that you want to talk about too. And, but I think the big thing is what is going on in the media or what happened, you know, in the world this week.
Yeah.
And the same day the UFO story or the hearing went on Wednesday was the same day the Hunter Biden hearing happened. Exact same day.
That's a big deal. That's a big deal, especially given what you were saying about Clapper being directly involved in suppressing the Hunter Biden laptop. And now he's over there drawing everyone's attention to this limited hangout. Come on.
Yeah. So that was the one thing. Yeah, it's fine. That's the one that's the main thing. And so so what happened was he pled guilty. The judge came back and was like, basically they kind of rejected certain aspects of the case because certain other evidence was there. He was expected to plead guilty to 2 misdemeanor accounts. And then what happened was because they realized, the judge was like, okay, this isn't making sense. The whole thing fell apart. And then he all of a sudden plead not guilty. So he changed it from guilty to not guilty. And that's like the big thing that happened. Then we have Obama's chef.
Yes. On the, what was he? He was on a stand-up paddleboard?
Yeah.
That's what it was, right?
Yeah. So then he died this week. And there's still the big question of who made the call and who was with him. There was somebody with him, obviously, and then the 911 dispatcher told the person that was going out there, someone will meet you at the gate. So everyone's asking who made the call, why did it take 19 hours to find it and find his body, and who was the other person? We still don't have an answer to that. Then we have all the stuff with RFK, Robert F. Kennedy. All this.
So he's getting denied Secret Service protection.
Yes, he is.
This is. It's like on the edge of saying you want him assassinated. It's like right just to the precipice of that.
I kind of feel that way too. And then of course we have everything with the all these people this past week. A lot of people collapsed this week. Famous people, I mean, specifically, and then so it's and there's a big document that was released showing that yes, I don't even know what to call it anymore.
Yeah, that was from Pfizer, right?
Yeah. Getting this could lead to myocarditis or what, the heart problems and everything else. And like,
Mario Kartitis.
Yeah. And like RFK, actually, he made a point in one of some interview he was giving. He's like, look, we're not trying, the problem is that it's not really cause to worry if you got this. What's cause to worry is that they're not telling people the truth. So it's like you could receive help now and get checked out knowing what the issue is. Hey,
right.
Am I going to have this problem in the future? Can you look into this for me? And they can already treat this issue, but by not addressing it, then it's like, it's just kind of like having a loaded gun where
it's sort of like it's like a retroactive informed consent scenario where it's like, okay, arguably there wasn't great informed consent because we were told there will be no spread. It will totally protect you. All those things, those were overtly said by Fauci and many others. That's easy to quote. So the informed consent wasn't really properly done. So, okay, let's say that was just a whoopsies. That was just a little whoopsies. You could try to correct that by saying, hey, okay, if you're someone who got this, let us inform you since you consented so that you can protect yourselves and your loved ones. I think that's very, very common sense. It's not even conspiratorial at all.
I agree. And actually, I have to actually correct something I said on Tuesday about the Obama or about the guy that died. The initial reports from the media said that Obama and Michelle were not at the house. But now that may not be 100% true because it was just the media that was reporting it. And I couldn't find any evidence to back it up one way or the other as I looked more into it. So anyway, not saying that Obama has anything to do with this. I'm just saying that it's still up in the air whether they were home or during that time or were there at one point like that. That's the question. And to this day, since this has happened, Obama has not made any official statement or they have not asked him anything, said anything. So don't know what's going on with that. But and then all this stuff is so crazy. So but I think going back to this UFO stuff, I do kind of think that it's like, why would they play this card now? It's like they've been talking about this for a while. Why all of a sudden, like, we may have non-human biologics,
non-human biologics. I think we talked about this before on the show, maybe last time I was on or maybe the time before that, but about the Overton window, about how the Overton window is this window of concepts that are acceptable, right? And then outside the Overton window is the things you can't talk about. And the things that are acceptable are the things in which you're allowed to make policy changes and actually like do things, right? Again, I'll say that they have seemingly very carefully kept the UFO subject in a very controlled manner in the Overton window. Like they've just been dropping stories consistently. Actually, pretty much since like the whole COVID thing began, they've really kept it in the Overton window, I would say. To me, that is about keeping it in the Overton window so that at any time they have the public's attention in a position where it can be misdirected based on what's going on. Like, it looks to me like that kind of warfare, in my opinion, it's possible because the Overton window is something that's very easy to control.
Yeah, I 100%. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it really is. So, Oh man. Yeah, it really is like mind-boggling how this is just like coming out, but and like, okay, I can also understand there's a lot of people out there in the disclosure community who are really happy about it. And I mean, ultimately I am too. It's like, finally, there is, the media is finally paying attention to this. And that's one aspect where it's like, okay, cool. Finally something's kind of going on with
Well,
this.
because we can run with it. Those of us
Yeah.
that are well informed can run with it and can, we can do a lot of legwork with this, because a lot of people have been crazily red pilled over the last 3-4 years, right?
Right.
So you have a lot of open minds now, minds that are more open than they were to possibilities, to just greater possibilities. And I think you're right. There's some optimism we can use here. Because always, even if you have, let's say it is a limited hangout, you have the opportunity to run with it and help people expand their understanding of what may be going on. Just help them hold possibilities and conceptualize things that they maybe they weren't able to conceptualize these things before.
Right. Yeah. But it's so funny.
But then you have this. Okay, so I do want to touch on this thing that we have there: the humanity can't handle aliens claim. Can we do that one?
Oh yeah.
Because this is interesting to me that, you have, this is like another sort of counter narrative.
Yes.
Humanity can't handle aliens. And this is from someone who says that they have had access to UFO footage. This is a lot of what Dr. Stephen Greer talks about, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like this whole debate about whether they're evil, whether they're not evil, and we're sort of forced with people like Greer. You're forced into the idea that it's like, no, they're all benevolent. There's no evil ETs, or there's no extraterrestrial influence that is seeking to harm us. And anyone who says that is launching an operation to try to control people's minds.
Yeah, I know.
Right?
Yeah.
Or you have that guy who's saying they're so powerful, if they're able to traverse the, would have already done away with us. And so you can't have anything malevolent because they would have already done their malevolent things. Right? And then so it forces you onto the other side. And so this polarization, these polar narratives where it's like, well, why can't it be nuanced? And be both at the same time. In the same time. Right? Okay, just taking humanity as an example. Okay. The human population, human Earth is filled with motives. Okay. You have all sorts of different groups with different motives. If humans traveled the stars and made contact, but let's say you had different groups of humans. Okay. Let's say you had, a more Star Trek Federation style group, but then you also had a sort of weird, creepy deep state group. You could have humans making contact in two different ways on one planet, and one group of humans would have a malevolent agenda and the others would have a benevolent agenda, but we'd still be the same species coming from the same planet. Mm-hmm. Because it can vary. Even, of course, it can vary according to one species. So if you just think of it on that basic level, even if we're being contacted by one species, well, if they're a species that developed on a planet, who knows how many different motives that one population has. But then you expand it into the potential of many different species. So, of course, there could be a panoply of motives and agendas. Why are we being pushed into believing that it's one or the other? That seems ridiculous.
And the other question is, why would aliens, from the perspective that all aliens are good, it's like, okay, well, they haven't like invaded us yet or attacked us. But then from another perspective, why would they want to attack us? Like, what really do we have to offer them that they couldn't get? And some people are like, well, there's like precious metals or whatever. And it's like, but they just found an asteroid that had like a quadruple amount of money of diamonds on this thing. It'd be like everybody could have like $2 billion for the whole planet of every single person, of like the amount of money that's found on this thing. So, so it's like, okay, but then, you know, we're watching all of these movies and these shows, and it's like, what do they really want? Well, it's like us, you know, we are what they want, essentially. And that's what it looks like. So, you know, from one perspective, it's like, well, okay, they didn't invade us by like, here, we're going to fly a thing over, you know, a UFO over DC and, you know, blow up DC and take over your planet. It's like,
So,
it's
you
like
know, I
not-
got into the philosophy of this actually in Worlds Within, because in one of my Worlds Within series, I got into the basic philosophical debate that's going on here in terms of like the history of the galaxy, you know, this so-called history of the galaxy in terms of different races and this polar argument. And it sort of breaks down to there is potentially species that believe in taking planets like ours and just using them as farms, you know, just for resources and for manipulation, for control, for power, for all sorts of, you know, you have a control of a planetary population. There's lots you can do with that. And then there's apparently those that believe that planets should be used to cultivate evolution and free will.
Right.
And that's sort of like the two things that, you know, you have different ETs that fall into those different categories, and that there has allegedly been galactic wars over this issue with the groups who want to just farm DNA in a certain direction for their own means, and groups that want to farm DNA towards evolution and free will.
Right. Well, and it's like, if you look at it, what's the number one, I guess you could say, money making industry on the planet? It's human trafficking.
Human trafficking, 100%. 100%.
So what would be the most valuable on our planet? Humans.
I think our children,
and
more
our
than
children.
just humans,
Yeah.
our children.
I mean, for like an alien race that wants to conquer us, right?
I think children are the most valuable because a child is just pure potential.
Yeah. So I think, so in some aspects, that's why I'm saying that what I'm alluding to is that the invasion probably already happened. We just don't know about it because it's not a physical invasion where they're like, okay, we're here, we're taking over. You know, it's like, well, it seems like they've already taken over in a lot of ways. And I do think there are good and negative like good ETs, there's negative ETs, just as there are good people, there's bad people. So I can't think, to me, it's like I don't like that whole absolute thing. Like all ETs are good or all ETs are bad. You know, it's like, well, yeah, it's the same thing with humans. You can't say all humans are bad, and you can't say all humans are good. So it's like, you know, it just is the way it is. But all right, you guys, we're going to have to jump off here, and we're everywhere. We're streaming: YouTube, Rumble, Ganjing World, Facebook, Twitter, Spotify, all of the above. And we're going to head over to rise.tv, where we're going to continue this conversation and talk about some things that we can't talk about on all these public channels due to censorship. So we'll get into some more of the grittier stuff here.
We got some good stuff. I got some updates on the Canadian government's war on natural health products that I'm going to get into. Get deep into that, and I'll give some stuff on Antarctica and so many interesting things.
Yeah, we still didn't get through a lot. So the Antarctica stuff is cool. So we're gonna head over to rise.tv. So for just $9.99 a month, you can come over and support what we do and our work. And of course, we have the Q&A that you get to ask us your questions directly in the live chat that we have on rise.tv. And we also have the top 10 weirder news of the week. So there's some really cool stuff in that one too. So your support lets us keep doing these videos and bringing you the truth that the censors don't want you to hear. So, all right, we're going to show a trailer, and then we're going to head over to rise.tv. So we'll see you guys over there.
Attention, attention. Have you ever heard of the rivalry between Coke and Pepsi? What if we told you the cola wars were just a big scam? Ever heard about a certain U.S. president helping popularize Pepsi in the USSR? Or how the Soviet Union paid the Pepsi company in warships. Why are candy and cola makers like Nestle, Coke, and Pepsi sponsoring health studies? Why do internal emails at Coca-Cola look like they've tried to influence the World Health Organization? Have you ever wondered why the obesity epidemic is getting worse even though we know sugar is bad for us?
Well, Edge of Wonder isn't a health show.
No, it is not.
And we already know we should be healthier. But what we found about the marketing manipulation behind our food products, that you were never supposed to know.
Don't drink the Kool-Aid about the sugar industry, people, pun intended. Ben and I are about to shock you by how little choice you really have in what you eat.
There's been a deliberate push for sugar on the world's citizens, and Rob and I are here to expose it. Today we'll uncover the smoking gun sugar marketing that just may reveal how our behavior has been conditioned for generations.
So join us as we dive into the truth about the big food agenda that's been building and building, and not just in your arteries. You won't believe what we found.
All right, welcome back over to Rise TV. I was
All right.
solving
That
this.
thing looks so trippy now with your green screen.
It's a